listening to Unfiltered with Muhammad Uncut, a podcast about personal growth and authentic leadership. If you're looking for tips on how to manage others, get ahead, and make your way up the corporate ladder, this is not the show for you. This podcast is about being of service to others, leading from the heart, and evolving into a better version of yourself. Each episode brings you motivated stories about unfiltered leadership and authentic leaders, those who involve others, use their influence to amplify diverse perspectives, and inspire teams to achieve collective results. If this sounds like you, keep listening. Welcome to the Unfiltered podcast. Unfiltered is the podcast for leaders who involve others, use their influence to help them rise, and inspire them to become better versions of themselves. The Unfiltered podcast showcases leaders who lead from the heart to make a positive change. And today, we have such a leader amongst us. So we have Paul Haury. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Paul.
Oh, so beyond close enough. It's perfect.
Close enough? Paul, thank you very much for being our guest today. Welcome to the Unfiltered podcast.
It's wonderful to be here. I'm really excited because, well, frankly, I had so much fun meeting with you before. This is going to be more fun.
So Paul is the belonging coach and evangelist for heart-based leadership in workplace culture and happiness. He's a coach, a mentor, an optimist that nerds out on all things in the social, behavioral, and neurosciences for what motivates us to become better. Paul is all about with whom and how we belong with one another. And he believes that the paths that get us there follow roads of vulnerable togetherness, kind and honest challenges in personal accountability, and a deep and curious appreciation for being wholly human in full potential. Wow, you've landed on the right podcast. Welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I'm lucky as I'll get out just to even be here with you, for crying out loud.
Thank you for accepting to be on here, and I look forward to the conversation. So to start us off, who is Paul?
Well, I'm just, I'm a guy that, as long as I can remember, has always cared about everybody around me. And that sounds kind of weird, altruistic, and goofy maybe. But my mom likes to tell this story when I was like in kindergarten. So I guess it puts me at 5 years old. At my birthday party, and one of the kids couldn't make it. And so there's 10 or 12 kids at the house. It's my birthday party, but I'm nowhere to be found. I was thinking about the one kid who couldn't come to the party, and I went over to his house and played with him. I might have gotten a little bit of trouble for that. But it's just kind of part of the nature, I guess. And in that, I seem to have gone down that path, sometimes at my peril, and sometimes hopefully at the benefit for others.
So that sense of empathy has always been with you, part of who you are, part of how you connect with others?
The empathy, and I'm going to go a little bit farther with it. Empathy is great, but unless it's acted upon and becomes compassion, it can be paralyzing. And, I really feel for you, buddy. And then walking on by doesn't make anything any better. So it's more along the lines, no, let's do something different and find a better way kind of thing.
You want to take what you feel and you want to put it into action.
Right.
And, that's why we're here. I'm talking to people who believe that while diversity may be a fact, inclusion is a choice. We choose to look around us and to recognize that diversity is in nature. It's in everything, in creation, it's in around the world, but we choose how we interact with that diversity. And when we choose to be inclusive, we walk into spaces and places where we want to be there with people, and we allow people to be there with us. So tell me how you do this in your adult life. Do you still go over to people's home to play when you feel that they've been left out?
Well, not right now, because we're not supposed to do that with COVID. It's not, that would be defeating the purpose of trying to help somebody get to a better place. But in general, I might go Zoom and do something like that and so on. And, that is, I want to go backtrack to say it. The way you were describing the inclusion elements and everything else, you took it to the deeper place. It wasn't just this transactional adding up of, if you have divergent positions, you just get better. No, it was you get to be yourself, they get to be themselves in that diversity. And this is where I'm going to sound like a shameless plug, and I don't mean it that way, but that's the difference between diversity and inclusion apart from belonging, because it's in that belonging place where, no, like our two faiths are different, but we're sharing the same world. And frankly, I love your faith too. And if we go to that place, we can do anything. And that means accepting each other into that space and really getting the different perspectives, and we can take both our perspectives and totally contribute to a new and better place. And that's the place where we belong.
Take me deeper to this place of belonging. Why do you think we've done so much to stay out of belonging? When I look at what's happening around the world and how we got into COVID, I don't think it was random. I think we got here because part of our own doing to a certain extent. But we don't go to places of belonging. We tend to stand outside and look in. And then it's this aloofness that we feel that we're better. And so we stay distant. So what does belonging feel like when I'm there?
So the place that everybody goes to, the place where you feel you belong, where you're embraced and you're accepted and affirmed, that's only half. The second half is where you feel that drive, that empathy into a compassionate space where you want to give that to somebody else too. And it's reciprocal. It's a two-way street. And I would put it into that space that's the game changer, because it's more than a responsibility. It's a love and a commitment to not let your brother or sister down.
Right. And that's powerful, because we approach most things through the lens of what's in it for me. And we don't approach a situation with what's in it for me that I can use to help others. So if I want people to open the door of belonging, once I step through, I have to make sure that I can make sure that there's enough space, that my own needs don't take up that entire space. It's not just about me. I need to listen. I need to make room for others. Does it kind of get really uncomfortable in belonging sometimes? I see this room. I see this room with many people, or I hope that I see this room with many people, but all of a sudden I feel a little claustrophobic. Does it get uncomfortable within a space of belonging?
Oh, always.
Pre-COVID.
I like where you went with the door. Somebody's holding the door, and then you hold the door open for the next person. And I'm going to use that as a thing. If you ever gone through the door and you're holding it open, you're like, oh, do I hold it open? Do I let it go? The automatic, they're just far enough away. No, I'm not going to hold it. That awkward moment is like every awkward moment we're ever going to have. We're human beings. We're trying to figure things out. We're in a state of fear. We're in a state of aspiration. And in the middle of that is this belonging area where we either help each other out through the fear, or we help each other to greater aspiration. But it's like, the fact is, sometimes our values aren't in sync, and they're not, let me change it down a word, not sync, but they're not quite compatible. Like, there are companies I would not work for. And it's not that I think they're bad, but their value place is not where I'm going to live from. And therefore, we don't belong. And
is that okay?
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah,
I think that's okay. I mean, why not? It doesn't mean that we don't belong on the same earth, because we clearly belong on the same earth, because we're not going anywhere else, likewise. But it allows for us to go, no, we are different. And even in our difference, we're okay not to belong. But I mean that in a sub-tribal standpoint, not in humanity.
So could you say that belonging is a house? We all belong in this house somewhere. But there are certain rooms where I feel more comfortable and where I want to be. I want to challenge this. I want to play
Yeah.
devil's advocate,
No,
right?
I would go with that. Reason being,
Okay.
just like I had a wonderful conversation with a gal this morning on introverts and extroverts in COVID. Extroverts are, oh, life is over. Introverts are like, yes, oh,
I can
finally.
read.
Yeah. So there's that space right there, and there's a value point where someone says, no, I value a little more space around me than being, all around people all the time.
Right. And
And
so I
here's
want to go with this image of the house again, because it's not so much of not feeling that we don't belong, but it's recognizing that once I'm in this house, once I find a room where I feel I belong, there's no judgment. No one is telling me I belong or I don't. I have made a decision that in one area, I feel more comfortable in belonging than I do in another area. But no one is outing me. No one is pushing me out through the door because I've made that conscious decision. And at the same time, I am not pushing anyone else out the door because I feel they belong where they don't.
right. And having that house doesn't preclude you helping somebody out in another house.
Yeah.
And this is to that whole point. We divine, we not divine, wrong word, although it could be. We define ourselves socially in alignment with something, or over and against something, and that's normal
Right.
because we are different. For example, you and I would go to a different building of faith,
Exactly.
and that's okay.
But I may invite you to come to my building of faith, and you recognize the similar values that we share, but you don't recognize that that has to be the altar where where you offer your sacrifice, right? But you recognize that we have a shared approach to something greater than each other in those safe spaces. Beautiful.
Right, and that there's enough space in
for
the
everyone.
neighborhood of the houses for us to actually be in abundance together. And by the way, I would welcome coming to your house from that standpoint, and I would love the experience.
And when I find myself in Seattle, I'll gladly knock on your door, but I'll give you a call ahead of time.
Oh, absolutely. But then think about this from the standpoint: we can do this anywhere in the world. We can do it from a matter of faith. We can do it from a matter of ethnicity, just different experience. That means we should be able to do this within our companies.
Right.
And earlier you talked about how we may have set this up for our own demise at this point. And in truth, I think you're actually right on that, because we went for years under I'll call it the efficiency model of, we're going to learn this set of processes, Six Sigma, it doesn't matter what it is, TQM, I was TQM certified, all that type of stuff, because they're efficiency models. That's do more with less. And that was the answer to being human. And we're prone to going into the outlying, or being outliers. If we're going to be left to our even our communal devices, we want to do something great. We want to go to that space. We want to be a hero for somebody we love. But our efficiency models work against that, because you must follow these sets and patterns. And that took over business. That's how the leadership / management models were built. And then, where's my phone? There it is. Then we got technology in the form, and by the way, I do love smartphones, don't get me wrong, but what we ended up getting was, now technology is going to fix us. AI is going to fix us. And the truth is, it's people that fix people. When they come together, they take care of each other, they have each other's backs. And I'll find it this way: it's where you feel, care, and own for somebody else's success. And they feel, care, and own for yours. But it's more than the success. It's the failure. It's the imperfection and all that stuff. When we get that,
Right.
that's when we go to the moon.
And it's not about who got there first.
Pardon? Yeah,
And
as
it's not about
opposed
who
to,
got there first, right?
right.
It seems like it's forever a competition of who gets to do what first, right? And we're always in a rat race of trying to outdo the other, that we approach belonging as an either or. You can belong in my paradigm, but only on my terms. And, the home you've invited me to is one where we're not aiming for sameness.
Right.
We're not, right? But
Hmm.
we're trying to find commonality. And we're trying to say that even when there's differences, we can still celebrate those differences and accept them, right? So, I often talk about if you can't accept, at least tolerate, and people get offended and say, I don't want to be tolerated. And, I'm trying to build in that paradigm that, you know what? There'll always be a bit of tension,
Hmm.
and you can choose, and try to integrate, and some people might call it finding balance and equilibrium, others may call it integration. You may choose to go down the path of finding that difference, and it helps you, it causes you to build a wall. I'm saying take that difference and use it to build a bridge, right? And the bridge has the purpose of joining your world and mine. And we as human beings can become bridges. We can bridge the
Oh,
divide between,
yes.
right? And
Hmm.
it's powerful when I was thinking about the way you're talking about belonging. And I think we can see it in a community. Like I have to tell you what really came to mind, and maybe for some of my listeners this will be shocking, but I went back to Woodstock and hippies, and I went to this nudist colony in my mind, right, where nobody was judging anybody, right? And I know people are saying, wait a minute, where are you going with this, Mohammed? But
Yeah.
really, no, I don't go to a nudist colony, but you can if you want. I guess what I'm trying to say is nobody's judging you when you're there. Nobody's looking at what you're wearing or not. Nobody's looking at anything else. We're just saying, you know what? And for and I'm being now, in all seriousness, the idea is that in a place where we're at our most primal in the way that we appear, then we are saying that nothing defines us but how we behave and our actions and our perspectives and the values that we share. It's not the clothes that we wear. It's not, the houses where we build. It's a lot more primal than that, and it's allowing others to show up in the way that they want. And when you strip away the layers, and now I'm not saying we all strip away our clothes here, but when you strip away the layers of the privilege, your linguistic privilege, your socioeconomic privilege, the privilege of where you went to school, or where what neighborhood you grew up in, or what house you lived in, what car you drove, how much money you had, the color of your skin. I'm a Muslim, and I can tell you that within our community, we have racism because we'll look at dark-skinned Muslims as people, I'm not saying I do, but there is that colorism within our community, right? And, so it's not just to say that, um, racism against color exists only in the Christian faith, right? Like down in the deep South somewhere, right? No, it's really
No,
to
no,
debunk, right?
it's in India, it's in the USA,
It's
it's in
everywhere.
anywhere in the middle. I mean,
Exactly. Right? And it goes different ways, right? Like I think we can hold biases and grudges and dislikes and hatred towards anyone who is different than us. But
right.
in your version of
But the
belonging,
secret isn't to go colorblind either. Matter of fact,
it's to go
going
color
colorblind,
bold.
yeah, colorblind, it drives me crazy. I mean, I'm going to get in trouble for this, I know it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Using the term here in the US, people of color, I don't want to use that unless that's what you prefer. If that's what you prefer, I will definitely use it on your behalf and for you. But what it comes down to is I have a buddy, black guy. His experience is a black guy in the
Yeah.
US, in the business world, and it's his name and black guy. So if I refer to him, he's my buddy Dale, and he's a black guy. Or it could be Cliff, or it could be, Rick, my neighbor. The reality is it's who they are, and they define who they are.
Right.
And it is to accept them for their, and for me to, and because I'm a 56-year-old white male, if I'm going to try to be lazy and I just want to refer to everybody's people, I want to stand for everybody. Once you stand for everybody, you stand for nobody, because it's that, that libertary thing. You're standing for the individual and who they are and what matters to them. And whether we'll form a sub-tribe in this greater tribe of humanity, that depends on how aligned our values are and whether we can marry them together with the differences. Because frankly, man, just even the thought of trying to marry myself would be the weirdest, terrible life I could ever imagine. My wife is completely different than me, and yet we have a commonality, and it is going towards that difference and relying upon each other in those differences that makes for a beautiful life.
And you know what you said earlier about that person having to define themselves, right? We want to label people for our own convenience and comfort. I know I was working with a colleague about a month ago, and the learning cycle never is, you never stop learning. And I called this person a woman of color, and she goes, "Mohammed, I'm a Black woman." And I stopped, right? And I thought to myself, yes, she is. And her whole life has been spent in defining herself by her color and in affirming her Blackness. And for me to, even in good faith, to come and say that she's a woman of color, and she wasn't being difficult or critical. She was educating me that she has spent her whole life struggling with the identity and wanting to celebrate her Blackness. And what we said earlier, not being colorblind, but being colorbold, not claim that this is her identity. It's
whitewashing, and I'll use that term for
it
convenience.
is.
It really is.
Yeah.
But let's go back to your earlier, the awkwardness that will always happen when you belong, because guess what? We're imperfect beings, but we're perfect enough to figure it out and love each other in spite of the differences. And to come to that in the right level of conversation, instead of, God, I just called her a person of color. What's her problem?
Right.
It's, oh, you know what? Tell me what I should. I'm sorry about that then. Tell me. And yeah, that's an awkward moment. It's awkward. It was awkward for her to say that, because she doesn't know if she's gonna, if you're gonna go, geez, oh God, and roll your eyes. But that's the same thing. And so this comes down to it. We have to wade through the awkwardness, because when it comes right down to it, that's when we find that beautiful spark of a person, that person whose experience in life and what they've gone through is like, wow, you are amazing. I don't know if I ever could have overcome that kind of stuff. Your fortitude, your whoever you met with, whoever taught you these wonderful skills for how to stand for yourself amidst a world that wants you to fit in and alter yourself and be something different. Man, I applaud. But you can't even get to that awareness unless you're afraid to step in a pile.
And you mentioned, and if I may, that we want to love that person in spite of the differences. And I would say, I think we want to love them because of the differences, right? Right.
Yes.
And
yeah.
right.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And no, right. Because, you're making me think sometimes that our language is really powerful. I had no ill intention by calling this person a woman of color, and yet Black was the right language. And if I want to say that I love you because of who you are, not in spite of what you're not. And it's powerful, because language can sometimes define how we behave, right? So we're talking about diversity and inclusion. We jumped right into this, but I want to peel it back a bit and unpack, what does leadership look like for you, and how do you bring that discussion of belonging into leadership?
So what you actually described there in your situation, that was leadership. Leadership is not about you. And well, actually, old models that we're used to seeing, the command and control, everything that is, I'm going to direct you, I'm going to tell you this, the process models, even the technology models are meant to create constraints for best possible outcomes. But those are the best possible outcomes that only the technology is stuck within its limits. We don't have those limits as people. This is why when we do things and we figure stuff out, we do the miraculous. We're sitting here talking on a Zoom call like we're
3,000 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're together.
And we belong.
I would personally, I would be honored to belong to you. Absolutely.
Likewise.
But the leadership that actually inspires that, elite military teams are so emblematic of this, and people don't really think about this. They think it's all about the technical skills and the fact that they can do this and they can kill that. No, it's the fact that they put every team member first. It's team first before objective. If I were to look at a Ranger team or a SEAL team that's sent out to go do these things, they're going out and they're being asked, can you make the objective? If the objective puts the whole team at risk, then the answer is no. It's the same thing in a business, is to go to that place and allow people and set the stage for them and their commitment and heart, because they own the success of each other in the company. And this is the inspiring job of the leader, to set this up and to provide the means and the technical skills and the character building practice, because what you do every day is what you'll do in a crisis. If you don't practice for the hard stuff, you won't do it when it happens. But if you do it and it's for each other in the cause, and you're putting them first, they'll start putting each other first. And then you get the real beauty of what comes along, which is people will sacrifice to make the honorable mission happen. What will destroy that sacrifice, that everybody has the potential to be in that space, is when you'll sacrifice any one of them, not on their volition. If you'll sacrifice them, leadership is gone. Because now you have told everybody, if it's convenient, you don't belong. And so the leader actually brings people into the space to care for each other, to learn the skills to not let each other down, to learn the practices and build the habits to prioritize their time spaces, so that, no, I'm not getting distracted. I'm not daydreaming about going to the Bahamas because I hate my job. I'm not doing this because I've got a brother or sister in this tribe of a company, and we're going to do this together.
And I'm not just doing it because of my fat paycheck or bonus right.
That's always third. That's
right.
Like third and fourth down the line. But what somebody will do for each other is a whole nother world. Well, what they'll join in a cause is a whole nother world.
And it's powerful. You use an example that, to me, so I always use a Michael Jackson phrase, which I'm a lover, not a fighter. So I never see myself as somebody aligned with military style leadership. So I'm full disclosure here. However, and this is why I love having these conversations, because I get to step out of my comfort zone and learn something new. And if we don't, then we just hold on to our ignorance, right? So what you just share with me, I visually could see I'm with my tribe. I'm with, you mentioned the SEALs, you mentioned, right? So I'm on the front lines. And if I don't trust the people that I'm with to have my back and to have their back, guess what? We're not a team, and it's life and death. And in crisis, in a mission where we don't share the same mission, where we're not sharing the same vision, where I won't save you if the time comes, maybe even at my expense, but it's to save everyone. That's something that, I've seen in movies, but you really made me realize just how relatable that is also to leadership. And we need to bring that into our workplaces and even our communities, to say that we're in this together, we're here to save each other's back, and we're going to protect each other. And your well-being is my well-being. That's right. Strong leadership, right?
That's the real leadership. It's that point where, no, I won't let you down. And more importantly, from the leader's side and the authority position side, nor will I sacrifice you for my gain.
Right.
And that's the part. I mean, I said this once and somebody got really upset at me, and I was like, fine, I'll change the language, but I'm going to say it like I normally say it. People will die for each other. They will join another's cause, or they will be a mercenary. this is our tribal life. And when we're in tribe, we will die for each other. And now, for this other person, I says, okay, how about this? We'll go to the ends of the earth for each other. We'll join each other's cause, and you'll pay us for stuff. But it really is this standard component, and nothing beats that. It's in religious, teachings of old. I mean, I could draw upon a whole element of this that goes all the way into Confucianism.
Right.
It's what, 5,000 years ago or whatever. I mean, this is humanity.
Right.
And this is where even going to, Fred Kaufman has this statement, and I love it. It's all conflict is born out of collaboration.
Wow.
And you think in terms of, conflict. Oh, conflict's the opposite of collaboration. It's like, no, conflict is the natural. Collaboration is the natural place for conflict to happen, because you and we could be working on something. You're trying to achieve something. I'm trying to, and it's both contributing to the same goal. But now in our, sometimes limited resources, it's one of us has to go first in the process. And both of us are so committed to making it happen. Now we have potential for conflict. The issue is how we come to that and solve it in belonging, not in competition. And that means, hey, Mohammed, yours has a tighter crunch. Let's put yours on the knot in first. And so we're going to commit the resources there now. I'm going to put mine on pause, and I'll follow right in behind. If you get comfortable and ease up, then we'll shift back to mine so we can get our overall objective done together. And that's the part in belonging. We're committing to the same thing. We're staying in tribe with each other. We're negotiating, even though we're wrenching inside with, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail for my customers because I love my customers even. It's that spot of, okay, and we have to collaborate because we're part of the same tribe. Now let's take it on a global space. In the global element, we only got one Earth, and we haven't figured out how to settle the moon or Mars yet. And so we're in forced collaboration, but we are all part of the human race. And so now we can go, I guess we should collaborate.
So you're going to the place where I was thinking, I often say that we may come from many different backgrounds, but we form one nation, and that's humankind. However, while we come from different tribes and we recognize that we need to coexist, and belonging is about my belonging as much as yours. But let's put aside, what some people can accuse you and I of doing. In these conversations, we can get the touchy-feely, and I have my best foot forward, and I have good intentions, and I care about you, and I love you. But we know that when something hits the fan, I go into my corner and you go into your corner, and we put our fists up, and then it's my tribe versus your tribe, or it's me versus you. So part of our human nature is we are going to get defensive, and rather than approach conflict as an opportunity to create and to be productive and to come up with innovative ways of doing things, and especially when you go into a global conversation. So I can see within one workplace, we could see how different tribes, different departments become different tribes, but we form the larger unit because we all have a similar vision for that organization. Great. You and I are on board. Now we go to different organizations. We have, two opposing tech giants who are creating different, modes of communication, different phones, right? The Android and the other phone, right? But now it's a race, and it's outdoing the other, and it's undercutting, and right? So we do this in the business world. It's buying up
patents of other people just so you can squelch new ideas and technology, right?
Right. But now we do this at the, within the context of nations. We start to do this. We look at what we're doing when we're fighting, North Korea, and I'm getting political here, but we've put certain countries on the not friend list, right?
Yeah.
And
there's the bad and good list.
Right. And so where do we go when we have these good intentions of belonging, but all of a sudden my definition of belonging is different than yours, and therefore we are in destructive conflict. It's you versus me.
So this goes back to the awkward messiness. There will always be an awkward mess. The key is never to give into it. Never to go, that's just the way it is. It is what it is, whatever you want to, however you want to say it. And this is where to go on the micro level into the small company stuff first. To go there and reach out requires, on the leadership side, for people to create a structure and a place where that's reinforced. In order to do that, it has to be practiced, and it has to be practiced under pressure. And this is the part where we need to do it, where, okay, how do I get it so that under the worst of circumstances, I can be the best? We do a lot of, in the best of circumstances, I'll be the best.
And the worst.
Yeah, and this is in part why I also talk about, and I had a goalkeeper trainer when I was playing soccer. He was the national keeper for the U.S. team, and I always had to do the worst, most heinous drills, because in the potentially worst situation, I needed to be my best. This is why I actually sort of like, so by the way, I'm of the age where they actually had a draft in the US, and when I had to register, I did conscientious objector. And I'll admit it, I was young, and there was a certain element that I did not understand about the brotherhood, sisterhood component relative to military related things. I got to work with a guy who was an elite ops guy, and I learned, oh, that's what it's really about. I'm still going to have a problem if I'm told to kill somebody because we have a political difference. But the fact is, I learned about, it really wasn't about breaking down and controlling somebody. It was about putting them in the most difficult situations where in all of their training, they would put their team first. And so this is my answer to how we get to that better place. Is we stop doing leadership from the best and the optimal in what you have and saying, oh, look, I did this and see how wonderful I am. It's in practicing going to the tough places, learning how to face and go into bad emotional places, and then get yourself to go, no, on a dime, I can say, I've got my brother or sister's back. And there are many different scenarios where you can set that up for practicing in leadership and business and companies. But once you start doing that, I've been calling it a team OS, which is your oxytocin and serotonin levels, O and S, are kept at a high level, even under high duress. And that only happens in belonging, where at least two people, are committed to each other and going through it together. Because they're going to, if they practice under duress and you keep that, once they get hit in the face or punched in the nose and whatever else is coming on, because it's the business world, there's a whole bunch of other companies that want to wipe you out. There's a set of natural events that want to wipe you out, because this is the world. Look at us now. We're all sitting around going, yeah, this COVID thing. We're human beings. We're the wussies of the animal kingdom. And we only survive when we come together. And I hope that's what we get out of this whole thing. We didn't beat the saber-toothed tiger. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get a paper cut or a hangnail. I'm like going, oh, dang.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But together, we find sharp sticks. We build some stuff. And, those claws can't reach us. And we get to it. And part of that is we're getting high oxytocin and serotonin levels. A smile, a touch, a hug, an affirming look, all these things create this trigger back and forth to us.
But does everybody want that? Like, I know we said during COVID.
So here's the difference between everybody who wants that. If I meet somebody who doesn't, that means for me, under pressure for the right kinds of actions as a leader, I got to show up without having the mirror neuron trigger, which says, oh, crunchy face. Okay, crunchy face. I'm ready to punch you back. It's like, no, I feel it. I know it's happening because I've got mirror neurons. We all have mirror neurons. I feel it. I actualize. I'm going, I can choose to respond. I don't have to have a reactionary moment. Then I can go to that higher place where I would normally just would live in my values.
It does come down to those values, doesn't it?
Right. But it also requires the practice to do those things, to show, you know, we tell somebody, we send them to a training, they spend 3 days and now they're a leader. But it's the day in, day out practices. And so in the carrying out it, so now you got two companies. And if the leadership has grown up in this time and has this anchoring in a set of values, yes, they'll do the things to keep their competition, but they'll avoid doing the crappy values thing in the process. Now, we do have people across all gamuts now. And in part, this is why we form tribes. Because we're gonna go to, oh, I feel good and safe. I used to be a high school teacher. I had kids that were in gangs. And people say, oh, there's bad kids that are in gangs and everything else. It's like, all I can go is, for some reason, whatever's happened in their life, the only place that they could find safety was in the White Center 13s. Not a good gang at all. And they're still human beings. And whatever's happened, I will not accept the bad stuff, but I will still love and care for them and ask them very clearly, you will never bring a gun to this school, right? And if I build a bridge with love and compassion, say that's not, there's people that have empathy all the time for that. Will you take and build the bridge with actual compassion? Will you reach out and communicate? Did I have to go to somebody and say, instead of saying, look, you lousy piece of crap, don't you ever, I went, hey, I would love to see you not have to have a gang to be safe. I get it.
You gave them options.
And then provide the options. Be there in the communication. Show up for them, which is what you have to do in business every day if you're going to be that leader that creates real transformation in people's lives.
And as the teacher, sometimes you recognize that people weren't able to open up those doors for themselves, so you left it open. You made sure that they felt safe to come in, and you created that space. And as a leader, you're doing the same thing. Is you're role modeling that behavior based on your values, and you're saying, these are the values that govern how we get things done. Even when we don't see eye to eye, we're going to find that common ground. We're going to build that bridge. It's okay to be different. That's going to spawn creativity, and conflict can actually be very productive. And maybe, we're not going to see eye to eye and get along. This isn't about kumbaya, right? Leadership isn't something that we choose all the time, and it's not an easy choice when we do choose it, right?
No, if it were easy, everybody would do it.
Right. So to that question, if leadership is a mindset and not a role, it's not, a position, then where do we define who's a leader and who's not? So
let me go even farther. It's not just a mindset, it's a heart set. It's that conscious place in the value of the values. I mean,
I love it.
Really. I mean, because if it's just the mindset, I want a safe school. Yeah, I want this guy to get out of the gangs. Yeah, I want him to have economic opportunity. Yeah, I want this. Then there's the other one where it's the heart set. And Melvin says, I had a talk with my mom last night, and I'm going to go back to church with her. I haven't been in 3 years since I joined the gang. And I said, I love that. I said, I'm happy for you. I says, you have my number. You can call me at any time. If you want to celebrate that you feel good about it, or if you want to tell me you're scared shitless. it's the human element. We're all in that place. The leadership side of that is, will you go first? I'm going to sound like a Simon Sinek thing now, into danger for somebody else. That's the leader, the unknown. You see something and it's like, it's an offhanded gender comment. Hey, that's not cool. Well, you laughed. Yeah, and I shouldn't have. So it's my bad too. But let's not do that again, because you know what? She's super cool and she doesn't deserve that. And she's working really hard here. So let's be a tribe and support each other.
Right.
That's the leadership. And that's, before it used to be command and control. That was the model. I mean, and then it went in, if you look, shareholder value, it was this. And so, you would lay off thousands of people to balance the books so that the shareholders could get their profit. Now, and by the way, thank you millennials for coming into play and saying, no, I deserve better.
We needed that disruption.
Yeah. No, I'm going to go. I'm pretty happy with this. Yeah. And especially as being the last of the boomers, I'm like, oh, dang, I'm going to side with them on this. No, we should be having that level of care. That's leadership. The person who's willing to go there. That's the leader.
And that's powerful. Leading from the heart is not always making the difficult decisions, but it's knowing when not to make the wrong decisions as well, right? Right?
Or being willing to go, and I could be wrong.
And that's okay. And I think we have to be forgiving sometimes. We were talking earlier about saying or doing the wrong thing, maybe saying the wrong thing to somebody based on their gender or their color. It's okay to be wrong if you're willing to learn, right? Yes. And it's okay for us, in a place of belonging, making a mistake is okay. And we have to have enough forgiveness to allow that person to learn.
Right. Because the thing is, when we belong somewhere, our failures are part of the deal.
There's no judgment.
Yeah. When it's fit, it's like, oh, no. When it's belong, it's like, oh shit. Oh, come on, let's get back up. We're not leaving you behind. And we're not going to sacrifice you for the rest. Right. You're a whole person. And isn't that what anybody wants? Just to be affirmed, have loving and belonging. I mean, I can't even tell you how many mistakes I have in my life. And I'm grateful, like every day, that my better half, she's like, I know who you are and I embrace you.
And that, I think, is where we need to land when we're talking about belonging, is we need to be strong enough to embrace each other, right? Oh, and I think that's
I love that statement. Strong.
That's we have to be strong enough to embrace each other, right? Who wants that hug that doesn't feel that it's coming from the right place, right?
Right.
Who wants
you only get when you win.
Yeah, and then what you're doing there is you're not really hugging. You're just taking the air out of that person, right? But I think, and you mentioned it, I think the new generation, the younger generation, the millennials, are helping redefine the workplaces. They're helping us understand that it's more than just the profits; it's also the people, and it's more than just pay me more. It's help me do more, and helping me do more means that I expect more, and expect more means that you need to give more, right? And it's really disrupting the workplace as we know. And this has been going on. We're not telling anybody anything new. This has been going on for at least a decade. But I think with COVID, if we don't use this opportunity to completely reset and recover, we're going to try to go back to some benign, disgusting norm, or try to build a new norm based on false pretenses that we had from before. Whereas we need to cleanse. We have to cleanse more than our hands. We have to cleanse centuries of ignorance and hate and exclusion. And we have to embrace a different understanding and a different definition of belonging.
Oh, absolutely. The superficial, I mean, we're visual beings primarily by nature, which is clearly by our matching set of glasses here.
Oh, I was gonna go there. Are they Theos, by the way?
No, these are iBobs.
Okay. Very great tasting glasses.
Well, likewise. And so it's easy for us to go to something we see that's similar. And this is why, like I say, again, leaders will go into the places of the unknown, and which may be dangerous.
To go where no leader has gone before. Right? There you go. And this takes me to the part of the podcast where I say to you, every week I have an unfiltered thought of the week. So it's where the unfiltered guests that I have show up and share their expertise and their passions on my podcast. I ask them to give my leaders, my listeners, one piece of advice, one nugget of heartfelt compassion that they can use to become a better person, a better leader, a better human. So what would be your unfiltered thought of the week that I can share with my listeners?
Put the effort in to find what your real core values are. For this reason and this reason alone. Unless you really know them, you'll never be able to truly join and belong with somebody else, because you'll just be fitting in with theirs. If you know yours, you can go, oh, I can actually be with those values of that different person than me, and we can do something magical together. Otherwise, you're just being them. You're
just feeling, but you're not acting. You're taking your your empathy to the level of compassion.
But it's one that you can do from your core.
Right.
You can't belong if you don't know yourself.
Yeah, so true. Well, Paul, thank you very much for sharing your heartfelt wisdom with my listeners. I thank you for being on the Unfiltered podcast, and I look forward to future discussions, because there are things that I wanted to tackle today that I didn't get the opportunity to discuss with you. So I look forward to continuing our conversations, and thank you very much for being my guest today.
Oh, privilege and an honor, my new friend.
Thank you. Blessings to you.
Oh, back at you.
Thank you for listening to Unfiltered, the show about authentic leadership and personal growth. Like what you heard? Click subscribe, share it, and tell a friend about it. And don't forget to leave a rating.